Okay, picture this. Imagine the deep, deep quiet of a desert night. The air is cool, it's totally still. All the dust from a huge battle has finally settled, and there's Abram. He's a victorious leader, but right now, he's all alone under this vast, silent, black sky. It's in this incredible stillness, right after the noise and chaos of victory, that our story really kicks off, and we're about to dive into one of the most powerful promises ever made.
So, let me ask you this. Have you ever hoped for something so much that just waiting for it felt almost impossible? Well, that is exactly where we find Abram. On the outside, he's a hero, right? He's a guy who just won this amazing victory. But on the inside, in his heart, there's this deep, quiet ache, a promise that just feels impossibly far away.
And then, in a vision, a voice comes to him. Now, it's not some booming, scary shout from the heavens. It's something way more personal, more direct. It's God speaking right into Abram's fear and all his worry, saying, "Hey, do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. I am your protector. And your reward is me." It's this incredible promise of total safety and ultimate fulfillment.
But Abram's reply, wow, it is so honest, it's so raw, you can almost hear the pain in his voice. He basically says, "Sovereign Lord, my great ruler, what good are all these rewards? What can you possibly give me when the one thing my heart is crying out for is missing? I'm childless. You've given me no children. The guy who's going to inherit everything I own is a servant in my house, not my own son." This is the heart of the conflict, right? God's massive promise versus Abram's heartbreaking reality.
See, Abram is looking inward. He's focused on the emptiness he feels in his tent and in his heart. But God is about to completely flip his perspective. And he doesn't just offer more words, he's about to give Abram an unforgettable picture, an experience that's going to pull him out of his inner world of worry and into the vastness of the entire universe.
The voice tells him, "Come outside." Just imagine Abram stepping out of his tent into that cool night air. His eyes adjust to the dark, and then he looks up. And, wow, there are no city lights out here, right? Just this breathtaking, absolutely jaw-dropping blanket of stars, more brilliant and more packed together than we can even imagine. And God tells him, "Look up. Go on, try and count them, if you even can." And in that moment of pure awe, God makes the promise personal. That is what your family is going to look like. Literally uncountable. And right here, in this incredible moment, the story tells us something absolutely crucial. It says Abram believed God, and God counted it to him as righteousness. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean Abram suddenly became perfect. Think of it more like this. Just by trusting this wild, star-sized promise, Abram's heart got perfectly in tune with God's. His faith put him on the right track, forging this powerful, unbreakable connection.
But then Abram asks another question. He trusts the promise about having a son, but God had also promised him this land. So he asks, "Sovereign Lord, how can I know? How can I be sure that I'll possess this land?" And you know, this isn't a lack of faith, not at all. It's such a human question. It's that need for a sign, for something concrete you can hold on to when doubt starts to creep in. He's asking God to help him seal the deal.
So God responds by telling him to prepare for this very strange and very serious ceremony. Now, this wasn't just any old ritual. In the ancient world, this was the most solemn, binding way to make an agreement, what the Bible calls a covenant. It involved taking specific animals, dividing the larger ones in half, and then arranging the pieces to create a kind of pathway between them.
And this is the critical point. This whole ceremony was the ancient equivalent of signing an unbreakable treaty, written in blood. When two kings or leaders made a pact, they would sometimes walk that path between the animal pieces together. It was a very visual way of saying, if I break this promise, may what happened to these animals happen to me. Seriously, it was the most intense oath he could possibly take. So Abram does exactly what God tells him to do. And then he waits and waits for hours. The hot sun is beating down, and birds of prey start circling overhead, trying to swoop down on the sacrifice. And Abram is right there the whole time, actively guarding the pieces, shooing those birds away. He's all in. He is participating, protecting the sacred space with total dedication. Then, as the sun begins to set, something supernatural happens. Abram doesn't just get a little sleepy, he falls into this deep, heavy sleep, and a thick and dreadful darkness comes over him. Now, this isn't just the dark of night. It's a feeling, a presence of deep awe and mystery. God is getting ready to reveal the future.
And in this state, Abram gets this incredibly detailed prophecy, a timeline of the long, tough road ahead for his family. God tells him, look, your descendants, they're going to be strangers in a country that isn't their own. And for 400 long years, they will be enslaved and mistreated. But, and this is a huge but, the story doesn't end there. God promises he will judge the nation that enslaves them, and his people will come back with great wealth, returning to this very land in the 4th generation.
After the prophecy, when total darkness has covered the land, Abram sees it. A smoking fire pot, kind of like what you'd see in an oven, and this blazing torch of fire. They just appear out of nowhere, and these objects of fire start to move. They pass right down the middle of that path Abram had made, right between the pieces of the animals.
Now, listen up, because this is the most important part of the whole story. Notice that Abram is asleep. He doesn't walk the path. Only the fire walks between the pieces. And that fire, the smoking firepot and the blazing torch, in the Bible, fire often represents God's pure and powerful presence. So this was God in symbolic form taking the entire oath upon himself. He is saying, I swear by my own life, I will keep this promise to you. The full responsibility, it's all on me.
And right there on that day, the deal was sealed. The covenant was made. God officially gives Abram the promise of the land, and he even lists all the people groups who were living there at the time, just to show the huge, specific territory that would one day belong to his uncountable descendants.
So what does this incredible, ancient, and kind of epic story have to do with us today, right? How can it help us improve our own internal dimensions, our own character? Well, this entire chapter is just a powerful lesson in trust, or as it's called in Hebrew, emunah. And this is a core midah, or a character trait, that every single one of us can work on.
So here it is, this week's Mid-Oat Challenge for you and your family to try. First, when you feel worried or scared about something, don't keep it all bottled up inside. Do what Abram did. Share it honestly with God or with a parent or a friend you really trust. Second, take a minute to think of one promise, big or small, that someone in your family kept for you, and then actually thank them for it. Acknowledging faithfulness is a great way to build even more trust. And finally, when you make a promise this week, think about this story. Remember how serious and how beautiful it is to keep your word.
So we'll leave you with this thought. Abram was brought out of the darkness of his own tent and into the starlight to be reminded of a huge promise. When life feels a little dark or uncertain for you, what is the star-sized promise you can look up to and hold on to? Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.